Democrats in California, Oregon, Chicago, publicly defying the will of the voter in this country. It is shocking that we've come to this point.
It really is. But I think this is what happens when you really have no other argument, right? What else are these people going to do? I keep saying that about this no kings nonsense, these crazy protests across the country. Look, the people on the left, and I, by the way, that group is being whittled down every single day, because I think so many Americans look at some of this stuff and they're like, this stuff is nuts. This stuff is crazy. This is not anything that we can actually vibe with. I don't understand what you guys are doing.
We got the story from Breitbart. Claim Portland police shield Antifa rioters as they shine spotlights in DHS agents' eyes. You may have seen the story. We covered it last night. When Antifa was using a high lumen flashlight on DHS to blind them and obstruct their ability to monitor the area, DHS tried marking the individual with pepper balls. They hid behind a street sign. Then they ran behind a police line. When DHS came down to apprehend the individual, the police said, "What do you want us to do about it? We don't know what's going on," which is a lie. Portland police provided cover for the Antifa terrorist, who then freely escaped. We've now got lines forming, factions forming. Look, I don't think it's the end of the world. I don't think the U.S. will cease to exist. Even through the Civil War, the U.S. still exists. But I'm curious where things like this go. With the previous political segment I've been talking about, with Democrats willing to defend a guy with a Nazi tattoo and who claims to be a communist, it seems like the left is literally just a cult. I don't want to call it a religion. It's not a religion. They don't have any kind of deity. It is a non-theistic religion, I suppose. They have high priests, but that just means it's more of a cult. Well, we're going to bring in Lara Trump to talk about all of this and what's going on. Let's boot up the system. We are currently loading it up. It looks to be good. And let's roll. Should be up any minute. Hey, Lara, how's it going?
Hello. It's going well. How are you?
I'm going pretty well. Thanks for joining me. Do you want to just give a quick introduction for yourself? I don't think you need the introduction, but...
Well, I mean, I got a lot of titles. I'm Donald Trump's daughter-in-law, wife to Eric Trump. I currently have a Saturday night show on Fox News. I have my podcast, The Right View, as you can see right here. I'm the former co-chair of the Republican National Committee. I could keep going on and on, but I think that'll suffice for right now.
Well, there's a lot I want to talk to you about, especially with this Graham Plattner story and his Totenkopf tattoo. But I do want to start with something that seems kind of shocking. And it's from a couple nights ago, Nick Sorter documenting the ongoing disturbances in the Portland riots, although there's not as many people as you see on the weekends. But an interesting thing happened. I don't know if you saw the story. There was an Antifa person flashing a high lumen flashlight at DHS to obstruct their vision of what's going on the ground. DHS attempted to mark the individual with pepper balls for later arrest. The Antifa individual then ran behind Portland police, who protected her from arrest. DHS came down and Portland police feigned ignorance, saying they didn't know what was going on or why the person was running. Ultimately, this person left. So now you've got these stories popping up. There's serious concern about when Portland police arrested conservatives who were the victims of violent crime, and now even protecting Antifa from getting arrested. Harmeet Dillon said it's time to send in the National Guard. I'm not sure if you saw the story, but I'm curious your thoughts on this and the general phenomenon with Antifa on the far left.
Well, I'm so glad that Antifa is designated as a domestic terrorist organization, because that's exactly what these people are, and that's what their goals are. They're there to terrorize people. They're there to obstruct the general flow of life and the way of things. They would love if they could to thwart the will of the people, and by that I mean, we know they're out there every day pushing back against ICE agents and trying to get in their way of actually executing the law as it's written on the books here in the United States of America. We want to get criminal, illegal aliens out of our country, and that's exactly what the ICE agents are doing. And now you've seen time and time again how these people within Antifa have used really destructive tactics to execute whatever it is they want to achieve. And we've seen it with the BLM riots, or also known as the Summer of Love riots. We've seen it time and time again across this country. And finally, we have a president who said enough is enough, and an attorney general who said enough is enough. We have to start taking these people at face value, and their face value is a domestic terrorist organization. So I, for one, am very happy to see that happen, because I think you continue to allow people, Tim, to behave in this crazy way, and you only encourage that sort of behavior. This is just basic of human nature. So that's number one. Number two, I think it's really outrageous that you have, people who have been elected into positions of power, mayors of cities, governors of states, who are not willing to protect their citizens, who are not willing to work with the federal government, who again is trying to execute the law and trying to encourage safety and security in our country. You've seen it, whether we're talking about Chicago, Brandon Johnson, J.B. Pritzker, or whether we're now looking at Portland. I assume that the Portland police are being given orders from a higher up, and they're saying, don't arrest these people or protect them against federal law enforcement. It's insane. And this is not how this country is supposed to operate. I was just in Memphis, Tennessee last week, and I got to do a ride along with the Memphis Safe Task Force. This is 30 plus law enforcement agencies, some federal, some state and local, who have now come together to make Memphis safe again. They had the highest violent crime rate in the entire country. They've seen that decrease dramatically, over 800 arrests. We're talking about gang members off the streets, illicit drugs off the street, over 40 children recovered and who are missing children returned to their families. That's what this president wants to do. So to see these people out there pushing back against it and getting in the way of this good work happening, I think is outrageous. And I think that the people of these communities are grateful whenever you see President Trump show up, whenever you see the federal law enforcement show up, National Guard troops show up. Look at Washington, D.C. That's what people want to see happen. You talk to the people in those communities, Tim, they're grateful when it happens. And it's a shame that there are these lunatics out there who are absolutely domestic terrorists who are trying to stand in the way.
You are correct, too. I mean, I live in the D.C. metro. We're like an hour and a half outside of D.C., so we go there relatively often, and it's been great. It's great. People telling me that they feel safe. I'm also
You can feel the difference. You can really feel the difference when you walk around in Washington, D.C., no doubt.
I'm from Chicago as well. And my friends, I left, crime being one of the reasons. My friends are like, it's great. These narratives are insane. But here's the thing. You mentioned these lunatics trying to stop this. What about these judges? Federal judges who are telling the president he can't use the National Guard. So let's bring this together. Portland police arrest Nick Sorter and a couple other conservatives after they got attacked by Antifa. And it was only because the federal government publicly made statements and sought to intervene, Nick Sorter went free without charges, even though he was the victim. When Trump then says, when Mr. President says, I'm going to bring in the National Guard because local law enforcement isn't doing their jobs for whatever reason, the judges say no and stop him. So Antifa on the ground and the judges in government obstructing what the people actually want to see.
And this is just the next phase of lawfare, right? And we saw this happen to Donald Trump over the course of the past 2 years. We all remember what was happening, a little over a year ago. Alvin Bragg, Letitia James, Jack Smith, Fannie Willis, all of that nonsense. This is the next phase of it. And now it's not just targeting Donald Trump. It's targeting every person in this country. Because when you have these judges who are picking and choosing how they're going to operate and they're basing it on politics, man, is that a dangerous place to be. It's why installing these judges is so important. I'll tell you what, Dan Scavino right now just took over as director of PPO, presidential personnel. He's going to be one of those people who's going to ensure that we have great judges all across this country. But it's totally insane that this is happening. And it's to the detriment of the entire country. So you see how dangerous this can become. This isn't just about your elected official at the very top as president, or even people in the United States Congress. These judges matter. Your local school board matters. All of it matters, because ultimately these people are determining what happens in our communities.
I'll tell you what kind of scares me. There's this ruling from the judge in Illinois, a federal judge, saying that the president can federalize the National Guard but cannot deploy them, which is paradoxical. How can the president assume command but then not simply instruct them to walk somewhere? This was not the president saying, we're going to go and arrest people and issue citations. This is what's called the protective principle of, I can deploy National Guard wherever I want. They just can't enforce the law under posse comitatus. How could a judge say yes to half and not the other? What scares me about this is these judges are engaging in just overt unconstitutional edict with these rulings. That's why they keep getting overturned. The president, I believe, trying to keep things at a lower temperature is saying okay when the judge does. I can respect it because as much as these liberals are saying, why won't the president turn the temperature down? I'm like, I'm pretty sure if a judge issues an unconstitutional order, the president could just say that doesn't apply. I can do what I'm allowed to do. But instead, he's playing nice and holding back a little bit. But I'm concerned that if that is the only way we play this game, these judges, these far left liberal politicians are going to continually violate the law and the Constitution. And unless we get gritty and say we're done listening to you guys violate the Constitution, they're gonna keep protecting illegal immigrants. They're going to entrench this worldview, this moral structure. I feel like we got to get to a point where the president's just going to say, listen, you have no authority to issue that ruling.
Yeah, and he may get there. I mean, look, we know that this is a president who is scared of absolutely nothing. If he could survive the past 10 years of his life, quite frankly, on every possible metric, this is a guy who's not afraid of anything. He wasn't afraid to go and deal directly with Hamas and say, hey, enough is enough. We're going to end this war. You're going to send back the hostages. He's not afraid of any of these people, but I think you're right. I think he's trying to take a bit more of a diplomatic approach to this and say, okay, let's not get crazy just yet. But if need be, you're right. He should have the authority to say, I don't need to deal directly with these people. And if you guys are not actually following the law and the Constitution, then maybe we need to look at another path. But it's really shocking because this just opens the door to allow people to do things that I think are really, to your point, really scary and really terrifying. I mean, look at Charlie Kirk's assassination. Because these people are allowing violence to reign and allowing a space for any of this kind of hysteria and nonsense, it only accelerates that kind of behavior. And I do agree with you. I think it's really scary. I think the president is taking a measured approach. And look, if need be, I think there may be another path for him. We'll see.
I guess the point that I'm trying to make is there's a challenge in that every time these conflicts, they've been escalating nonstop. It seems that the right is always saying, let's stay calm and move slowly and strategically. What ends up happening is we consistently see from these judges with the what was it called? The universal injunctions, which were struck down. You can't do this. They were doing things that they do not have the authority to do. So you can put it simply as just ignore the politics of the matter and say there's two people. One keeps breaking the law and the other is saying we have to be careful about how we approach the person breaking the law. The left thinks they're justified in unconstitutional edict order. It's pretty wild. I was talking to Tom Homan the other day. ICE is enforcing the law Congress codified. They're going out arresting people because Congress passed these laws decades ago. Democrats in California, Oregon, Chicago, publicly defying the will of the voter in this country. It is shocking that we've come to this point.
It really is. But I think this is what happens when you really have no other argument, right? What else are these people going to do? I keep saying that about this no kings nonsense, these crazy protests across the country. Look, the people on the left, and I, by the way, that group is being whittled down every single day because I think so many Americans look at some of this stuff and they're like, this stuff is nuts. This stuff is crazy. This is not anything that we can actually vibe with. I don't understand what you guys are doing. I think they've run out of every possible argument. How are you arguing with securing our border and keeping Americans safe? How are you arguing with gas prices being down below $3 a gallon for the first time in 4 years? How are you arguing against world peace, which this president is actually making a reality? They don't really have any argument for this stuff. So this is their only outlet. I will say this. I agree with you that traditionally conservatives are very kind of meek and say, well, we're going to be the nice guys here. Donald Trump kind of changed the game on that in a big way. And I will say this current Republican Party, this Congress that I see right now, the Republicans who comprise it are now a bit of a different breed. And I think people learned a lot from Donald Trump. They learned backbone. They learned how to fight. They learned how to stand up and stand strong and never give up and never give in. And you look at the shutdown right now, and I'll say they haven't been playing the game the Democrats thought they would play. And so there is some hope, I think. And I think we're learning as a party a little bit of a different tactic and different technique. And I give a lot of credit to my father-in-law for that.
You know, what's funny is asking like how we get to this point, what is the morality behind these people? They're always complaining about whatever it is. It's the ballroom now. How dare the president expand the White House and do a construction project? But take a look. Have you seen this story about the Maine Democratic candidate Graham Plattner, who has the literal the progressive candidate in Maine, backed by Bernie Sanders and many of these progressives, has the actual SS symbol, the Totenkopf, on his chest. It is a specific image. It's a skull and crossbones, but it's not any old skull and crossbones. It's a literal and overt symbol of the SS. I forgot the actual. We call it SS. I'm not a historian. The Nazis who oversaw the death camps. He has that tattoo on his chest.
Yep.
Democrats are running full speed to say, he was young and dumb and drunk and didn't know what it was when he got it. And they're defending it. I think that just shows the only thing they have in their political sphere is, as long as you're anti-Trump, we're okay with you, even if you have a Nazi tattoo on your chest. This guy says he's not a Nazi there. Oh, it's fine. We don't care. Pete Hegseth has Christian symbols, and they call him a Nazi.
Remember the white nationalist symbol that he had? You mean a cross on the cross tattoo? Yeah, that's how these people operate. It's amazing that the same people who were trying to call out Pete Hegseth, Tim, are not outraged over this skull. You're right. This is a very specific skull and crossbones. And actually, I wanted to make sure I looked it up and compared it side by side to the SS version that you're talking about. I don't think you mix those up by accident. And by the way, if you did, wouldn't you at this point, as one of his staffers, one of this guy's staffers even acknowledge, wouldn't you have already covered that up by now? I don't get it. Yeah. It's crazy. But maybe even more frightening than the tattoo and the fact that, a lot of the Democrat Party seems to be very anti-Semitic in general. So maybe this should shock no one. Are really the policies and the platforms and the things this guy has said, advocating for political violence. He said black people don't tip. I don't know about that. All cops are bastards. He has held these communist views for a long time and identified as a communist, believes in climate change, wants to stop all the deportations. That is also scary stuff. So for a whole host of reasons, I hope people in Maine pay attention to who this guy really is, and the voters will ultimately weigh in on this. But yeah, of course it's outrageous. And of course the hypocrisy is staggering when it comes to the same people calling out the white nationalists, also known as a cross tattoo on Pete Hegseth. They don't have much to say about this.
Yeah, it's funny because I think it shows that the word Nazi to these people doesn't actually mean Nazi, it just means like enemy. Because when the guy has the actual Nazi tattoo, they're like, well, but he's on our side, so we're not,
Not a big deal. We'll just let it slide. We'll let this one slide.
Have you been following the Pentagon press news around like all the media walking out? Have you seen? You've seen this, I imagine.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand what the issue is, and I can't seem to figure it out. So the Pentagon says, hey, look, there's certain areas where you're allowed to freely roam about. You have your offices. You can do, interviews. Like there's some restrictions, but the media is acting like the Pentagon has just ended journalism and free speech in this country. So I read the memo. I had tweeted about this. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about like everything I was reading in it, and this may be preliminary, I suppose. But I suppose I'll just talk about it while we're here. But I signed it. And we were talking with several of the journalists, scratching our heads as to what the heck the media is complaining about. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it or the story from these journalists, how they all staged this walkout, refusing to sign a simple like press pass acknowledgement from the Pentagon.
Well, first of all, here's what I'll say. As it relates to this administration, you have never had a more transparent administration in my lifetime, for sure. When it comes to presidential administrations, you see Caroline Leavitt, you see Donald Trump. My God, yesterday, I think my father-in-law was in front of cameras engaging with the press for multiple hours. I saw him in like the 12 o'clock hour, then in the 4 o'clock hour. And likewise with all of his cabinet secretaries, they are very open and they are very engaged with the press. We have nothing to hide. We want to give information to the American people from the perspective of this president, right? When it comes to national security, when it comes to the Pentagon, it is well within the right of Pete Hegseth to say, hey, you know what? Maybe you guys weren't supposed to get all of this access. We're going to give you everything you need. And I also like something else that the White House has been a leader in, which is bringing in kind of alternative media outlets. We have never seen a White House do that. They have a space for podcasters, for people who are independent journalists, Tim, which I think is so refreshing to see, because that's, I mean, look at your show. People are finally done with the mainstream media, and they're like, we don't trust you anymore anyway. So I imagine that going forward, a lot of those people will probably be given a lot of access to the Pentagon. And you know what, for the people who aren't willing to abide by the rules, maybe they didn't need to be there in the first place.
Yeah, I believe there's supposed to be some like announcement about the news organizations that have agreed to these terms or whatever. So I'll give people the gist. I get sent the memo and they say, let us know if we had been talking about interviewing people at the Pentagon. We've never been there. I've never interviewed people there before. And so, hey, what do we have to do to get these interviews over these issues? I mean, the missile strikes, the drone strikes in the of the drug cartels and things like that. There's controversy around this. There's arguments from liberals. And they said, okay, we'll come to an interview. Here's how press works. The New York Times and several others, I think, made the argument that the agreement states you will not. It's like you can't publish classified materials or something, and you can't solicit it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, and I mean this sincerely, but I'm fairly certain it is a crime to solicit classified information from an individual. This is under the Obama administration. They charged people, he did, with espionage. Journalists can't go to a person and say, "Give me classified intel." That's illegal. What they are allowed to do is if a person says, I'm whistleblowing or leaking this, journalists are protected if they receive it unsolicited. But you can't go to someone and say, break the law so I can have a story. So I'm confused. I read through this thing. It's like a lot of parking. It's like when you agree to the press pass, here's the areas where you can park. I'm like, what is this? I feel like the press has been called out. They've been not necessarily even cut off. I feel like the president has been one of the more transparent administrations, giving access to tons of different outlets, letting people come in and ask him questions whenever you want. And when they act untoward, he just responds back with, well, you're fake news. Still not something you'd see from other administrations. I feel like, you mentioned the mainstream media is now sort of being pushed aside. People are waking up, but we're becoming the mainstream media. Your show, my show.
That's right.
The legacy press stormed out of the Pentagon furious because they wanted to be treated like kings, and no one is obligated to treat them that way.
That's right. And I think that if there's one thing people have to give Donald Trump credit for, he's the one who kind of started that push, right? If you go back to 2015, the day he came down the golden escalator in Trump Tower, people kind of all were just asleep at the wheel. And they were like, yeah, we'll get our news from the New York Times. Yeah, we'll tune into ABC News. No one really had in their mind that coming out of Donald Trump running for president would come the term fake news. And then he started to expose who these people are and why they're fake news. Look at the Leslie Stahl interview back during his first term as president, whenever he talks about his campaign being spied on. And she goes, oh, Mr. President, we're 60 Minutes. We can't publish something that we can't back up. And he's like, Leslie, this is the truth. Then, of course, you get Tulsi Gabbard in there as our DNI. And now we have all the evidence of all of that stuff happening. The whole point to this is Donald Trump exposed the legacy media for the fake news that they truly are. And man, was it time, because people didn't realize how manipulated they had been in this country by these people. Now that they're awake, now that they see it, they are seeking alternative outlets. And thank God for that. That is a great thing for our country. We want people to just get the information, Tim, and let them make the decisions. We don't need to put any kind of spin on it. Give it to them out there. The American people are smart. They'll make the right decision.
We had on comedian Graham Linehan. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's famous in the UK for several sitcoms that he had written. And he was a liberal guy. He was a I don't want to say far leftist, but entrenched liberal worldview, where he was part of the cancel culture, the pile-ons. There was this incident in Scotland with a guy that we call Count Dankula on social media. He had made a joke video of his pug doing the Hitler salute as a joke. And it was just a YouTube video that he made on his phone or whatever. Graham Linehan had very similar jokes in his sitcoms. So I asked him, the sitcom joke that we had talked about on your show is very similar to this guy, Count Dankula. He got arrested for that pug joke.
Oh, my God.
And this is a while ago now, but this is an interesting backstory. I asked Graham, about this, and he mentioned that he actually piled on the attacks against Count Dankula. Again, that's just the guy's name on social media, because he genuinely believed this was a white supremacist who was racist and hated people and was mocking them with this dog. But he wasn't. Count Dankula, he's a funny guy, he's a comedian, he's not racist, he's fairly liberal probably. And Graham said only later did he realize he was wrong when he piled on and attacked this young man. And I said, when did you realize, how did you come to realize that you were wrong about this? And he said, at some point I realized every journalist was lying to me. We all started busting out laughing because it's funny, isn't it? Every single journalist in the corporate media and the press march in lockstep with the lies and keep people deceived as to what they're actually supporting and what they're doing. And now, it's funny, we were talking about this Graham Plattner guy. The New York Times headline on the story says he has a tattoo with a Nazi link. It's quite literally the Nazi tattoo of the Nazi brigade.
Tim, imagine I had that tattoo. Imagine that. Can you even for a second? The kind of things these people would say about me, but that's it. They sugarcoat everything. They just soften it up a little bit when it's someone from their side, because we know they're the marketing arm for the Democrat Party, the legacy media. No, there's no doubt about it. But I love to hear stories like the one you just told, because I hear every day. I travel constantly for work. I'm in airports and on airplanes all the time. I'm at a lot of different events. And I can't tell you, it's almost daily. People come up to me and they say, you know what? I was a Democrat. I was a far left, voter for so long. And they always have a then. There's always this one moment, one thing that triggered them to start to look closely. And when the one thing happens and they realize how wrong all of it's been, then it's like a deluge of things that they are like, wait a minute. All of this information has been wrong. A lot of it happened during COVID to a lot of people. A lot of it happened last year when Donald Trump was indicted for the most ridiculous things. A lot of it happened after his assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. But for so many people, there's that one moment. And I'm so happy that people are there and people are seeing it. And it takes a lot. Whenever you've believed one version of things for so long, it takes a lot to bring yourself to say, you know what? I may have been wrong. I may have been lied to, but kudos to those people who have that ability to see it and say it and then come out and talk about it. I think that's great.
What was really fascinating, which this actually shocked me. Earlier in the year, we had on this woman on Timcast IRL. She's a liberal journalist in Brooklyn, but she left corporate media, and I think she's starting to now see through the manipulations, but she did not know, and this is, again, a few months ago, about the Very Fine People hoax.
Oh, gosh.
She legitimately still believed that the president had defended Nazis, and we had to show her the video, and she was like, wait, Trump never said that? And it's crazy. It's 7 or 8 years later, and there are still people who don't know they were lied to about this.
Tim, people still believe that Russia influenced the 2016 election. Like, are we kidding ourselves right now? That Very Fine People hoax, that's one of the ones that really gets me. That and the Russia collusion nonsense. I mean, this is my family. This has been our life. My husband just released a book called Under Siege. Last Tuesday, it officially launched. And I hope everyone reads it because you'll really start to appreciate what the last 10 years has been like for our family. But I went on the Breakfast Club last year during the campaign, and I had to inform the hosts of the Breakfast Club of exactly what Donald Trump said in that Charlottesville hoax. He said there are very fine people on both sides, meaning the people who wanted to protect history and the people who were against the statues and thought they should come down. And that's all you heard from the liberal media, and except they should have let it play for another 20 seconds because he goes, except for the neo-Nazis and white nationalists who should be condemned totally. You never heard that out there. So thank you for playing that for her. But the same with the Russia crap. People, it's in textbooks. It's in textbooks in our schools out in the United States of America. Donald Trump won the 2016 election because of Russian collusion. Are you serious? Yeah.
One thing I love to say, and with all due respect, I've never met Eric, but I have. We've had Don Jr. on several times. He's called in as well. And I try to be careful. I try to say this with respect. He's a regular guy.
Yes.
What I mean is, if you were walking down the street and you bumped into Donald Trump Jr., and you didn't know who he was, you might assume that he's just like a broker at a firm of some type, or just...
You'd probably think that he was going out fishing, to be quite honest, based on what Don usually wears.
Exactly. And the media paints him as this like Machiavellian, evil, white supremacist. And I'm just like, people, if you bumped into this guy, you'd be like, wait, you're the son of a billionaire who's the president? I wouldn't have seen that. It's just, like you mentioned, going fishing, regular guy. The media paints this such weird picture. And I'll say this too about President Trump, meeting him at Mar-a-Lago, very calm. I'll say it like this because we're at a little bit of time. I was talking with Michael Malice, and he asked me, what's something that people would be surprised to learn about the president? And I was like, he's very calm. Mm-hmm. And he's like, wait, really? And I'm like, the clips the media gives you are the highlight reel of those moments when he's more energized or frustrated. But when you actually see him walking around, he's very polite, very calm, handshake, voice is very tempered. But the media wants to paint this picture of an angry, shrill, constantly screaming guy so they can create a negative image among the general public. But I think we are winning. So I'll just, if you want to throw out any final thoughts on this matter before we wrap up.
Well, all I'll say is one of the things that struck me about my father-in-law is didn't matter what the situation. Since I've known him, I've known Donald Trump for almost 18 years now. And man, we had some tough times, when 34 felony counts were all guilty.
Fake felonies.
When, Letitia James issues almost $500 million in money that has to be acquired in like 72 hours from Donald Trump and the Trump organization. When he has a mugshot that was highly unnecessary because every person in the world knows what Donald Trump looks like. Right. All of these, it's crazy. All of these moments when the rest of us in the family were like, oh my God, like how do we get through this? You would talk to my father-in-law, we would call him, or he would call us. He called me right after that mugshot, and I was like, how you doing? He was like, honey, these people are nuts, but you know what? I don't know how we're going to win. He never let it get to him. And it's like those moments when you're on an airplane and there's some turbulence and people start to get nervous. You look at the flight attendants, and if the flight attendants are calm, you're kind of like, all right, well, I think we're going to be okay. He was like our flight attendant for our whole family for so long. And I got to tell you, he's an incredible human being. I hope more people come to realize what a great man he is. He didn't need this job. I still will say, Tim, he will go down as the president with the highest approval rating of any modern president once he leaves office. I really believe that. And I think you're starting to see it all change right now before our eyes. So I couldn't be prouder to be his daughter-in-law.
I'm a fan. Well, I appreciate you coming on and having conversation. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you got it. At Lara Lee Trump on all social media. And I constantly trying to bring information to people, make you smile. You might see dogs, you might see kids. You never know what you can find on my feed. So I got it all. Right
on. Thanks for hanging out. It's been a blast. We'll have you on sometime soon. See you next time.
Thank you so much.
Take care. That, of course, was the great Lara Trump. And I thought it'd be interesting. I feel like a lot of these subjects we all kind of have these similar thoughts on them. But when you're talking about well-connected, Lara Trump, daughter-in-law to the president of the United States, it's interesting to hear how she feels about what's going on and that kind of inside baseball on what Trump was feeling and how he's explaining things when they indicted him. Fake felony charges. I love that. You could go to like a small African village and show a picture of Trump and they'll be like, Donald Trump. So she makes a great point. My friends, we are going to send you on your way. I believe Devory Darkins is gearing up to go live. He is live now, actually. Great show, by the way. I got to visit and appear in his show when I was traveling. So shout out. It's really great. Let's get you guys over there. Make sure you like the show, share it with everyone you know, all that good stuff. Uh-oh, it said it didn't work. Why not? It's giving me the business. Don't worry, I'll get it. Giving me the business. Let's try again. All right, we got this show coming up on November 8th. You don't want to miss it. There we go. Real quick, we got the DC Comedy Loft. Do I have that pulled up? I don't have it pulled up anymore. Check out dccomedyloft.com. Search for the events. You'll find the tickets. I'm not putting the link there, right? So normally I'll say links in the description below because we want people to take that extra step. Go to the DC Comedy Loft website, search events, find the event, and then sign up, buy the tickets. And then as we get closer to the date, I'll make it easier for you and put the link in the description below. But this way, those that really want to be there are going to get the preferred tickets. And no disrespect to people who need the link. I'm not saying you don't really want to be there, but we want the people that are going to come up on stage and join the debate to find the show, buy the tickets, get involved. And don't forget to join our Discord server at timcast.com. Unity is our strength. We have tens of thousands of people in our Discord community every day, talking, working together, building new things. There's shows in the morning. There's after shows at night. Check it out. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all tonight at 8 p.m. for Timcast IRL.